Squirrel Rosenberg Podcast coming to you live and direct from the lab as we rocking in a very cool Friday night movement. Usually we keep this night exclusive to be out mingling and seeing people and really getting the word out. But tonight we decided to stay home, stay back in the studio with a couple green bottles and marinate on a classic moment. Tonight's podcast is going to be a little bit different, ladies and gentlemen. Normally I have one guest, we really get into them, but tonight I got my boys in the house. We're going to talk about some old stories. We're going to kick back. We're going to marinate. And you're going to realize the impact we make in each other's lives. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And that's why you should be focused. And this podcast is going to remind you that, you need to care your friends, love each other, and be there for each other. So as we get ready to rock into this SQR Podcast, lock into our YouTube channel, SQR Podcast on YouTube. The Facebook is moving, SQR Podcast. As a matter of fact, just Google SQR Podcast. We got the whole front page. You can get everything you're seeing right here. The music you hear in the background is available on our SoundCloud. So let's rock into this tonight. I want to give a big shout out to everybody that's tuning in. Big shout out to Manny behind the camera for holding us down. Thank you so much, bro. And tonight, classic moment. Sean Faulkner. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It's a bong.
It's a pleasure.
Tim Olson. It's an honor to have you in the house, sir.
Thanks, Squirrel. Thank you.
Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, before we even start, could we just raise these gorgeous Heineken bottles and toast to this classic moment as we enjoy this classic beer?
Cheers.
Tonight, I wanted my guests to realize how fortunate I've been to have known both of you. I want to go back to when we connected, your perspective, and how things have just evolved to where we are right now, because this podcast is really about the connectivity and the influence we all have in each other's lives. And when you hear the story, good, bad, and indifferent, it's going to be interesting. But I also want to let you know that the guests that are in-house tonight are making some significant moves on the world. They've stepped out of their comfort zone. They've done some really interesting things. And tonight, you're going to understand what it takes. So as we crack into this, I'm going to start with my boy, Sean. Let me tell you this, my friend. It's an honor to have you here on the show tonight.
It truly is an honor to be here, Squirrel.
And when we were scheduling and we were like, we're all about your schedule. People were like, maybe asking, well, what's this guy doing? Could you please enlighten my viewers exactly what you do and who you are?
Thank you. It's busy mostly because I'm a married man with 3 young daughters who are beautiful and wonderful.
Bong. Congratulations. Congratulations.
And so there's the work life, which is also a passion. I am a professional mental health counselor.
Okay, nice.
Which takes up a lot of time, but I love it. And then coming back home, there's always a number of things still to be done. And so it's an honor to get some time aside just to be with my boys, going way back to the middle school days of when
we're gonna touch on
it all
that.
came together.
We're gonna crack into that. We're gonna crack into that. But I salute you because not only the field that you're in is such a service-oriented field where you have to be vested emotionally. However, having 4 girls at home.
With the wife, 4, yep.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a second. I had to do the math there.
No, but you got 4 girls at home. And let me give a big shout out to the Patterson ad-libs. You can always count on the car alarm going off or some Dominican music in the back. Thank you. However, as we crack into this, I salute you because you're balancing a massive workload here. And I know it's because your shoulders are strong enough to handle this. So we're going to crack into a little bit of detail on that. And I just dropped a jewel on Squirrel Rosenberg Podcast right now. Squirrel Rosenberg just dropped a jewel. You only get what you can manage because your shoulders are strong enough. Tim, let everybody know what you do and who you are.
I am a physical therapist. I also have 2 beautiful daughters at home.
Bong. Yo.
Girls.
Go in.
So, I've been a physical therapist for about 7 or 8 years. I work with people of geriatrics. That means a little bit older, and I also work with people in sports as well. I started out looking to do something big in the sports world, but I realized that I actually really enjoy working with the elderly. So that's been something that has been a blessing in disguise, because I didn't realize that in the beginning. But I really feel like I'm doing something that really helps people, and I enjoy doing it. And I make a decent dollar as well. So
big. I know. I salute you. And the reason why I do, say I salute you, because I remember when we met, and to see you guys have both evolved, because this relationship right here. Let's really be specific here. I've known you guys both for roughly 20 plus years, correct?
Wow.
Yeah, I still remember. I still remember one of our first Sunday school classes in that little room on what street was that? Like Harding Street?
It was Madison.
Madison. Yeah.
In Clifton. Yep.
Yeah.
I still remember that room. It was behind the main sanctuary, right?
Yeah. Upstairs.
Oh my God. And that tiny little room. But there's certain periods or points in your life, like rooms that you remember, and that's one of the things that I really kind of like treasure about that period in my life was those Sunday schools, to be honest. Yeah.
So hold on, before we jump into that, so our viewers can follow what's about to happen.
I said Sunday school, yes. I said
So let's just bring this back. So Squirrel Rosenberg Podcast, as we get ready to dissect and go to the beginning. So there's like a potato salad of what's about to happen here, because our lives are so interconnected in this mosh that's going to evolve into what you're seeing right now, which is what's the word I should look for here? An individual who wanted to contribute and got involved in a church where you two were both in the Sunday school. I came in as a Sunday school, quote unquote, sub teacher, just to see what's going on, volunteer, and bow, things happen. So we're going to crack into this, and let's do this real quickly. And scene, boom. I go to Sunday school. The church is next door to me. Right? I walk over. I'm from a very involved family. So my only nature is to get involved wherever I go. So we go in and I get involved to be a sub at the Sunday school. You guys are in Sunday school. I come in. What was the first time you remember us meeting? Tim, if you can. Or what was it about? Because you touched on that earlier.
I remember bits and pieces of like scenes. So I remember your walk for some reason. I remember you walking, like into the church or into the classroom, whatever. But I just remember this guy does not look like everybody else,
What's that song? I know your daughter knows the song. Which one doesn't fit, right?
Which one is not like the other?
Exactly.
So when somebody walks into the room like that, you're just paying attention to their every nuance.
The Squirrel Rosenberg swagger from the start.
Yeah, from the start. Yeah.
I came from a pretty, I guess you could say, sheltered, home. So, to see somebody like this was very interesting. At the time, I think we were all watching Family Matters. So, we see somebody of not that we weren't around people of color, but just that, this was our teacher now. This is somebody who is going to be in the room with us exclusively without any other parents around,
Yeah, true. So, talk about it.
No, I remember it was a very enlightening in a good way, just
it was
different to see somebody take the same material that I had been through. I went to a Christian school growing up. I've been to church every Sunday since I was born, except Sundays where I had soccer games. But no, we went to church and then we went right to the soccer game. But it was just very different to hear it from a different perspective. And because of that, I think I paid attention more and kind of got tapped in more to okay, where is he going to take this? And how can I apply this to what I already know, because I've heard it many times before.
But in a different format. Because what's so funny is I brought the practicality. And that's what I was, I wanted to get across to my students. And, you guys being my first set of students, I just wanted to make sure. I cannot definitely say to you that I sat every day and said, yo, what's going to be my plan today? I didn't do that. I did do that.
I think that was what was also cool about it too, was just, you were a teacher, but at the same time you definitely had the one of the boys like friend vibe as well. So I felt it was something that you could probably talk on a level, a playing field, where you couldn't talk with somebody who you'd have to worry about what you were going to say.
Yeah, true. Because I'm actually left field already, so I'm opening the gate for you to be left field. You know what's so funny is, and I appreciate your honesty on this, because I don't think we ever talked that macro on that experience. Especially from your point of view. How about yours? Go in.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I remember from the start of Squirrel coming into our Sunday school class was a guy who cared first and foremost for building the relationships with us as the students. It wasn't with an agenda, it wasn't with the curriculum and this is all about head knowledge. It was like, I'm here as a human being, as a young adult, still old enough to be respected as adult and leader, and yet the way and the humility of being willing to put yourself on our level and just relate to us and show that you care. And that's what it is. I mean, that is the message of love of God, of the Bible, in flesh and bones. And here I am, and I'm available. I'm not some scholar. I'm not above you. I'm not here with an agenda. I'm here to be present and to relate. Now, I couldn't articulate all that as a middle school student.
But you felt it.
But I felt it. Like,
Squirrel
this is
Rosenberg
a guy I can
Podcast.
relate to.
Squirrel Rosenberg Podcast. Sean has just snuck a jewel by me. And one thing I do is I'm aware of every jewel. And I got to, when you said the fact that I was there and present, as you were talking about those characters, I remembered wanting to be there and present. Wanting to be that. And I am flattered, very flattered, that the analogy or the comparison to the way the Bible has dictated how we should treat each other was synonymous organically from the get-go. And that's what's so interesting. So people, let me just bring you bring you up to date on where we are. So I am now fortunate to be their Sunday school teacher, and you heard the impact that I subconsciously made on these two individuals. They're locked in. They're like, yo, what the hell's about to happen? We're about to ride out, and we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, and we're going to share on a poignant experience as I weave life, teenage experience, the Bible, and Wu-Tang Clan into the whole mix. SQR Podcast, Squirrel Rosenberg Radio, my boy Tim, my boy Sean. We'll be back after these messages. One. Squirrel Rosenberg Podcast, coming back with my guest, my boy Sean, Tim, sitting here marinating on the macro ingredients that, made me stand out without even knowing those things were being transmitted actually. So thank you for being so specific on that, but letting them know how I felt when I first stepped into the scene. So here we are, one of our first lessons in class, and I'm I'm involved in the music industry, and I got this record, Wu-Tang Clan's first album. Did I know it was a dirty version? I don't remember, honestly. I do know I wanted you guys from this very conservative, predominantly white background to hear the vocals of the Wu-Tang Clan. So I passed this out during class. What was your first reaction when I handed you this record? Because you knew who the Wu-Tang Clan was.
Oh, I knew who the Wu-Tang Clan was. And I said, is this really my Sunday school teacher?
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really know who they were.
No, I respect your honesty.
I came from the Christian school background, but Sean happened to go to Passaic Public Schools, so
Public
you know.
Schools, yeah.
Oh, so you got a little taste of the urban.
I had
so
a
you
little more flavor.
Okay, more
growing up.
picante.
I knew the RZA. I knew the Jizza. Not on a personal level.
Go in.
But it wasn't just the CD that my man Squirrel brought to class that day. I don't know if you remember this.
I don't remember. Go in.
It was the album, and it was the T-shirt
Oh my!
I got the T-shirt.
with the W. Yeah.
Oh, the wow!
I had that shirt through college. I rapped in that shirt.
Wow, because I did get
White
a lot
chocolate.
of
White chocolate.
Yeah, white chocolate.
Represent.
AKA white chocolate. My boy Sean here. No, because I remembered getting all this paraphernalia from being involved in the entertainment industry, and I just wanted to share. Not understanding that there was a dirty version. So let's even get more macro here. So the first time you listened to this, what did you think? I know you were prepared. You weren't.
Yeah, no, I listened to it and I actually didn't really understand most of it.
Okay. Yeah. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah,
That's
I didn't
fair.
really understand most of it, but I liked. You could feel the energy. You could feel the energy with it. So it was something like, I didn't realize what I was holding. You listen to it, you like it, but it's not something like you really like investigate further. You know what I'm saying?
True. Which is pretty ironic. As a Sunday school teacher, I'm bringing you this as a sample. Here, have this, because I know the experience was pretty ill. I know when we talk about it, it is funny. So I know you rocked out to it. Really, you were like, bong! I got everything I needed. Go back to Passaic, and you were killing it, huh?
That's it. I was really surprised that it wasn't the edited version. This was handed to me inside the church.
I know. However, one of the things I've always, tried to accomplish with my role as a Sunday school teacher was to incorporate real life living, and how all the stories and all the things that were applied back then in the Bible are still applicable now. And it was fun because you guys were fertile soil. I did enjoy all the excursions that we did. I mean, we really blazed the trail for that church when it came to that Sunday school. And to have been in your life up to this point is fascinating, because now I'm talking to fathers who have daughters and careers that are really making an impact. So as I transcend to that, I want to and I'm going to start with Sean. Your family background, right? Diehard Christian family. You were mom, dad, brothers and sisters?
Only child.
Wow. All the attention goes to Sean. How did you handle that, my friend?
It was lonely at times. But sitting right here before me is my brother. I mean, Tim and I go back even farther than Squirrel Rosenberg, because when my parents were bringing me as a baby of 6 months old on an airplane from Japan back to New Jersey, we moved into a home that was a 2-family home. My family on the top floor, this guy's family on the bottom floor.
What?
He was 1 year old, I was 6 months, and that's when the friendship began. From that point,
wow.
33 years
Toast to
later.
that. Yo, toast to that. That's
That's what's
big.
up.
No, that's big. That's big. From Japan.
My parents were there on a 2-year missions operation, teaching English and working with the church there. And that's where they created me and brought me back to the lovely state of New Jersey.
So are you a Japanese citizen?
It's interesting. The law there is you take citizenship at birth with whatever your father's citizenship is. So at birth, I was an American citizen born overseas.
Okay, because your father was an American citizen.
Because my father's an American citizen, I can still become the president of this country. Vote for me one day.
Squirrel Rosenberg Podcast. Yo, my boy Sean Faulkner let you know that we're going to change the political climate over here. Wow, that's interesting. So from that 6 months to 1 year, that's when you guys...
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember that one, but
wow,
we've
fascinating.
literally
No,
been
I
friends
didn't.
for as long as we can remember.
Wow. So your transition through high school, middle school,
college,
the whole shebang.
the whole shebang, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I just want to get a little bit more granular in your family journey, because you've definitely been, and I don't want to give it away yet, because you've gone out of your comfort zone so many times. You've done such a service impact on this world, places you've been. So I kind of want to find out, what's the catalyst behind that? Like, who in your family was significant to propel you to do what you're doing right now? If you can ever think about it.
Absolutely. That very story of knowing that my parents took 2 years of their lives to go overseas and to serve. You know, clearly I was much too young to remember anything, but to see the pictures, to hear the stories, even from a young age, to grow up in Passaic, going to the public schools, seeing just a lot of diversity of the world represented right here, just different families, different backgrounds, different cultures. It really made an impression on me of all the differences and variety and beauty of people in general. And I must say, my parents as faithful Christians and also attending the public school, from a young age, there was an impression made that God makes a difference in people's lives. I would go to friends' houses and I'd see things that I wouldn't see in my home or at the church, and the dynamics, and maybe it's the arguing or the, just like, wow, there is something to this Christian living that had an impact and left an impression even at an early age. So as far as a catalyst and a drive, I mean, big ups to my parents, of course.
Yo, let's look at the camera on number one right now. Let them know. Let's say the parents' name again.
My mother, Christine, and my father, Win Faulkner.
Bong, bong, and another bong. No, for real. Without even knowing they're making an impact on you, made such an impact.
Absolutely. They're awesome. I love them. Thank God they're still alive today. I get to see them regularly.
Wow. No, I love that journey, because, you kind of did a quick synopsis of the impact they made on your life. And we want to come back and dissect even more some of the projects you've taken on. Tim, the family background, the makeup.
So I had a little bit different experience. I went to, instead of public schools, I went to Christian schools. So I think that was different than Sean's experience, because he got to see those things early. He got to see what the difference between like he said, a Christian home and a secular home.
Yeah.
And I have to say my parents did a good job in kind of sheltering us from those things. And I think there's definitely, there's different advantages to different types of situations. I think that in our situation, I have two brothers. There's three boys, and I think that all of us turned out pretty well. I think my parents did a good job. They spent a lot of money to send us to these private schools, and I think it really was a good way to go. But I also see the value in somebody like Sean, who went to the public school system, and they were able to early on kind of differentiate and put a value on the Christian lifestyle. When you're young, you don't really have a philosophical mindset yet. So you see just black and white, like the difference between people who have morality and people who don't really care as much about that type of thing. True. And the product of it. And I kind of noticed that early on, like when I was a teenager, I was like, Sean really kind of takes Christianity more seriously than I do. And this is somebody who went to Christian schools my whole life. So think about that. My parents are paying thousands of dollars for me going to Christian school. and I know all the scriptures, and I I'm immersed in it pretty much, every day. And here's somebody who's going to a public school and, has the exact opposite, and yet that person has more value on that than what I felt like I did. So I noticed that pretty early on that was different about us. So yeah, I don't know.
No, I appreciate you being that vulnerable. That was very, very big, because at the same time, what I heard from that, and the way we know how he moves in our lives it's the application of what we're supposed to do. So when we hear the story of Jesus and how he came back and challenged all the established, because they weren't applying it, and here you are seeing that difference. So I want to give a big shout out, and I really give you props for even being that vulnerable.
And I'm not saying that one is better than the other. I'm just saying that I realized I saw like a difference between kind of like the mindset, and not necessarily that I didn't appreciate it, just that there was a difference in like a baseline of what
he had a reference point.
The reference point.
Yeah, he had a reference point. So as you're both, evolving here, because let me ask, you guys went to the same high school, correct?
Correct.
So yeah, after he went to the public school and I went to the private school, then we ended up going to a private high school together. So it's kind of like a really interesting. I mean, you could almost see this as like an experiment.
Yeah.
Like if you're looking at like,
true.
Okay, you're a parent. You have these kids. You're trying to decide, okay, am I going to spend the money to send my kid to a private school, or am I going to let them go to the public school? We have pretty good public schools for the most part in New Jersey. But so here you are, public school, private school, my whole life basically.
Yeah.
My whole life. And I'm telling you, like, public school did different things for him. Private school did different things for him. We kind of veered in different paths. And then we made it to the same high school. And I think because of our different paths, we excelled at different things. Mm-hmm. And then, we parted ways for a little bit in college. And then we actually went to the same college for the last 3 years, too. So, yeah. So, I mean, I think it's a pretty cool, like if you just like a case study, you could look at it like, like we had different experiences and we turned out differently. And both of us have our pros and cons to the.
It's all about the exposure, but what I like is the constant interweaving of the life. So what I wanted to do is, and as we get ready to wrap on this second segment in the podcast, Sean, as the reference point that you were exposed to, and it seems like organically you accepted. You didn't rebel or ran from this to that, because it's always, this stereotypical movement is where somebody who's been sheltered is like, let me just run to this complete opposite side. What do you think created that balance?
Yeah, it comes back to that impression that was made early of this makes a difference, and what is it that I want my life to represent?
Squirrel Rosenberg Podcast, another jewel being dropped. Say that again, my friend.
The impression that was made of God making a difference in my home and my family, and seeing the beauty in that. I mean, Squirrel, I can literally remember as a young boy, like, I don't think I was more than 7 years old, and my parents welcomed a homeless person into our house and took care of them for the night. And there I was, just me and this guy that we didn't know. But it was because he needed a place to stay.
You acted.
And my parents were willing to do that. And now as a father myself, with little ones in the home, I just really appreciate what that meant from their perspective. Because let's face it, that's not just easier now that I'm older, see that everybody just does that.
Yeah.
But it was those kinds of real experiences and real life people who did make it practical. It wasn't just stories and ideas and concepts, but I got to see it lived out. It's beautiful. It's attractive. That's what I want to represent. That's the life.
Wow.
I remember when I was in Clifton Recreation basketball, and I played basketball with Sean, and I was like, hey, why don't you come play on our team? And he was on board, and it looked like it was going to happen. And at the last minute, I heard that Sean he wasn't able to play on the team because they required the parents to sign that you were a Clifton resident. And of course, Sean was in Passaic, and Sean's parents weren't willing to compromise, even to let their son play basketball, because they didn't have a program in Passaic.
I'll be honest, I wasn't as thrilled about their integrity at that particular moment. I wanted to play ball.
Neither was I, of course. Neither was I. But looking back on something like that, just something simple like that,
having a standard that you're not gonna
compromise.
I'm not gonna Squirrel Rosenberg Podcast. You're hearing the meat and matter of really what this is all about. We're going to take a quick break, come back with my guest, Sean Faulkner, Tim Olson, marinating on the growth and how we connected and really got together. Guys, thank you so much for being so vulnerable and open. SQR Podcast. We'll be back after these messages. One. Squirrel Rosenberg Podcast coming to you live on the rec as we get ready to catch up on, just marinating on this just a powwow over a couple cold Heinekens, reminiscing on the impact, the journey we have made, the impact we've made on each other's lives, and the connection as we evolve into the men that we are right now. And I'll drop a jewel right now as I just thought about it. I've realized that we've all produced women, and it takes a real man to produce a woman, so don't get it twisted. Squirrel Rosenberg Podcast, I'm dropping jewels right now. So as we get ready to dissect this, the high school connection with you guys, the different routes that you took when you connected in high school, and this is a private Christian high school, what was that journey like? Tim?
I mean, it was great because, this is my best friend, and now we got to go on the bus together. We got to go to high school together. So this was a new experience where we got to, spend more time together during our school hours. Before, most of our time was spent out of school. Mm-hmm. So it was fun. We took a lot of the same classes together. Yeah. We definitely kind of had different personalities in high school. I would say like I kind of went more the jock route,
What does that mean?
I played sports, so it's a big commitment. And Sean played sports too, but I felt like he was more like kind of like the arts, more like the social butterfly of our.
It's a nice way of saying I got cut from the basketball team a bunch of times. I would get cut, I would go bowling, and then I'd act in a play. That's what I did.
Bong. No, I love the way you own that, for real.
Now his last name is Faulkner. So I remember our freshman basketball coach used to at the time there was a movie called Meet the Fockers.
Meet the Fockers, yeah, I remember that movie.
Yeah, so I think sometimes he got confused and he would get frustrated at Sean and be like, "Focker! If you drop the ball again, you'll never see the light of day."
when I was on the team, freshman year, when I was still on the team.
Oh my God, that's bananas. So, the sports wasn't your forte.
Not the forte. I did enjoy them. I did try hard, but I wasn't as athletically gifted as my best friend.
If there was half court basketball, I think he might have made a better.
It's that whole running thing.
That running thing. Yeah, that will get you in the sports. I gotta tell you, that was so. I really appreciate the way you own that, because I know when you're going through high school, you're really trying to get your legs underneath you, for lack of a better term. And as you're trying out for these teams and really realizing that, you said you got dropped from the team and then were doing a play. So you did a lot of theater, arts, theatrical stuff in high school?
Yeah, I acted in the plays. I really enjoyed that part of it. I played the trumpet and Tim played the saxophone, so we were in the band as well. And so we got involved in a lot of different things and made a lot of really great friends. It was a wonderful school. For me, going into that school was a cultural shock of an experience.
I remember this part. I was here when he told me this for the first time. I got a kick out of it.
What happened?
So, Lincoln Middle School, number 4, public school in Passaic. I think I went through my yearbook, Squirrel, and literally counted out of 1,400 students, there was about 20 who could be considered Caucasian, and I know at least half of them were Puerto Rican. So I was the white boy. I was the one out of 1,400.
Wow.
And then I went to Eastern Christian High School, wonderful school. But
everybody's white.
There's 300 people there, and they all white. I was scared out of my mind. Where did all these white people come from? I didn't know God made so many. Like, there's other ones like me. Like, where have they been? Where have they been? Like,
wow, a complete.
It was and so
180.
I got to really embrace it and enjoy it. And white chocolate was the result. I would,
that's the nickname you got coined?
I brought the flavor
you brought the swagger from.
We actually did
a song from Passaic.
We did a rap together. I mean, we did a rap. And he was white chocolate and I was Twinkie Man. 'Cause, I'm half Asian, half white, so the Asian was on the outside.
The yellow on the outside, the white in the middle.
Oh, Twinkie Man.
Twinkie Man. Yeah.
Twinkie Man. Okay, do you remember the rap that you guys did?
We just changed the words to Coolio's
to the
Gangsta's
background
Paradise.
of Gangsta's Paradise.
Okay,
we inserted our own lyrics.
Okay, so if I drop the instrumental to Gangsta's Paradise.
Oh man, that's I'm gonna have to have a minute to recollect.
Okay.
As I walk through the hallways of the ECHS, I take a look at my life and realize that I'm blessed, cause I've been laughing and sinning for so long. I'm really sorry, Bogert. What I did was wrong.
No. What we're gonna do is when we finish this powwow, I'm gonna drop that instrumental. And we're just gonna record you guys going in on that rap, So.
I think that's all I got.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think that's a good idea. No.
That's big. I appreciate that, and the fact that you brought that swagger into the whole mix, And now as you've evolved and got through high school, and I was very privileged, through our relationship as a Sunday school teacher, and I think I was with you guys through high school as your quote unquote Sunday school teacher, and I met a few of your friends, and I know you guys were a great group of guys, and all evolved, and so I wanted my guests to really be along the ride that you guys are taking together, regardless of the scenic route that you took to get there. So as we get ready to chop this up, Tim, you're now the jock playing sports, making moves. You're still in the band. I know you snuck that by me, because the fact that you were in the band with this guy, that was amazing. But what was something about high school that you think was significant to propel you to what you're doing right now, or your perspective right now, actually?
Yeah, I mean the high school, like you said, it was a great high school. It was really a good balance between being in a high school that was very academic. Mm-hmm. Promoted the social aspect, but was very safe, and I I think that gave us the confidence when we went forward, that we were basically, the world was ours, you know. So there was nothing. We didn't leave that school with any baggage. We basically
Squirrel Rosenberg Podcast. A jewel just you stunk by me right there.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, like I don't remember really. I'm sure bullying went on, but somehow they were able to really promote an environment where people could walk the halls. You didn't worry about bullying. You didn't worry about drugs so much. I mean, you knew drugs were around, but you never saw them in like the hallways. You know, you really had teachers who cared. We were both in like, you know, honors classes, and these were with the top students in our class, and you know, everybody was pushing each other, and it was a very you know, a very enriching periods in our life where we could really, as young people, learn a lot, learn about people, learn about the world, you know, through our books. And just, you know, even though it was a white school, we had to drive through Patterson to get to North Haledon. So, I mean, there was still diversity. Like, we still had, like, diversity in the school. Maybe not, obviously not as much as Passaic High School. But, you know, we were definitely, like, you know, when we were seniors, you know, they let you go out for lunch. So, like, I really felt like it prepared me that when I got to college, that I had a decent grasp on, you know, things that were inappropriate and things that would move you forward.
So you left that school feeling prepared.
I left that school feeling prepared.
That's big. That's big. How about you, Sean?
That school was an amazing place. Just as Tim was saying, formative, prepared beyond, I think, most. I mean, I remember freshman year of college taking a freshman writing seminar course, and there's a paper, and I think I had forgotten about it, and so I stayed up late that night, you know, in a few hours, busted it out. I'm looking at this thing like, this is not a good paper that I'm turning in. The college professor is 99%, and will you become a writing major? And I was like, my high school teacher would have torn this to shreds.
Wow,
you know, so
wow.
It was a good school in a lot of ways, but I think more than the education, the relationships. Again, we were so blessed. I mean, we really were. Not only our peers, but the teachers. I mean, these
Vested.
people cared, vested. And it really takes the perspective of growing up and looking back. I mean, it was a wonderful place to go to school. I feel very lucky and blessed.
Not big. Let me ask you this. Do you remember a specific teacher?
Yeah, actually I do. So we took those honors classes, and I remember we had a teacher. His name was Paul Beverly. So he was part of the humanities class. So he was like Western civilization, philosophy, and I remember he was kind of the first teacher who I felt was kind of like more like a college professor. Like, he really pushed you and didn't like let you think, and didn't tell you what to think, you know, and let you think, and unfortunately, you know, I've heard recently that, you know, he actually passed from cancer. So I do want to actually, you know, give a shout out to Mr. Bev.
Let's do that. Big shout out to Paul Beverly. The impact you've made is still being felt right now.
And I know a lot of people feel the same way, because he was a teacher there for probably like 20, 30 years.
He was still teaching last year.
Yeah.
He taught my cousins. He was teaching for a while before we got there. He's had an impact on thousands of people's lives. Mr. Bev. Mr. Bev was the man. Absolutely.
Same teacher?
Yeah, another one that comes to mind, I mean, definitely Mr. Bev. There were so many there. It's just a great school filled with great teachers. Dr. Wilson was also
Doc.
Yeah, big shout out to Doc.
This guy was hilarious, bro. I mean, he just knew, again, how to relate to the kids. It was like comedy.
He was kind of like you,
times.
Squirrel.
Yeah.
He was kind of like you, because You knew he had kind of like a worldly side to him, but he was a preacher at the same time.
Oh, wow.
Well, he would give his story, and I don't know how he did so many different things, but I remember a part of it. I got burned out as a preacher, and I paved asphalt. You know, with the jackhammer for.
He used to stand on the table, like, so all the students would be at tables, not desks.
Yeah.
In his class. And he would stand and walk from table to table. You were standing there and you were looking at, like, kind of like a stripper was, walking. No, but this is your teacher walking across the tables, and you were looking up like this, and he would be like,
from that angle.
And God will call on you. Like do something, in kind of in jest, but also giving you a lesson. Wow,
it was big.
He was our Bible teacher as well as history some years too. But freshman year, our very first class as a Bible lesson, he literally jumped up on the table, swung a chair in little Matt Apol's face. He didn't turn in his first homework assignment, screaming, "Lazy people will be condemned with this chair." This is not a small dude. This is a big, bulky man. Wow. Everybody did their homework for the next 5 weeks at least. Done.
Squirrel Rosenberg Podcast. The significant impact these teachers have made on your lives to really mold you and prepare you for college and get you into this movement that you're doing right now. And I want to get into that side of the story of the college movement and the experience, because I know you guys went to Cali and you went different places. And at the same time, we all kept in touch. We were all in support and we were all moving. And I want to end with where we are right now, the impact you're making on your family, and where we guys are going. SQR Podcast. We'll take a quick break, come back. Stay tuned. One. Squirrel Rosenberg Podcast coming in on this great powwow. It's been such a long time. And I say to my crew, we need to have the camera going and a mic open behind the scenes when we're building, because that little powwow we just had as we were just refreshing our brewskis, and let me rephrase that, refreshing our Heinekens. I just wanted to just really catch that B-roll. But at the end of the day, right now we're rolling back into this conversation, this powwow, this well overdue powwow with my boys, and catching up on that journey and learning even stuff I've known you for years that I haven't really learned. However, you're going to be fascinated when you see the end product and what these guys are going to be doing on our world today. So as we marinate into this, so you go to high school, you graduate, prepared, appreciative of the shoulders you're standing on, the parents that made the sacrifice, the teachers that were invested. Big shout out to Doc, big shout out to Paul Beverly. And as you're now transitioning into college, what was that moment like? You went to college where, Sean?
Azusa Pacific University in Southern California.
Azusa. How was that spelled? 2 Z's or 1?
2. 1.
APU or APU.
What does that mean?
APU. It's just APU. That's what Azusa Pacific University.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why Azusa?
My grandparents lived in Southern California, and while I was in high school, I got to visit them, and they introduced me to the school. And I'm walking around the campus. I mean, there's the palm trees. There's just the sun.
You stood no chance.
I said, as wonderful as New Jersey is, 4 years here could be all right. They let me in. It was a wrap.
What was your major?
Social work.
Oh, giving again, huh?
It has a way of creeping up on you.
Yeah, right? Squirrel Rosenberg Podcast. My boy Sean here dropping a jewel. Giving has a way of creeping upon you.
Yeah, I knew that what I wanted to do was going to be people-oriented. I mean, that was just a big part of my growing up, of who I was becoming and my personality. And so exploring a few different things, I saw social work as a way to get in there and just to help people. So signed up for the classes and kept going with it. And really came out with a lot under my belt that could be used and is still used, thankfully, today. So
let me ask you this. What was the transition like from the East Coast to the West Coast?
Yeah, no, it's a different culture. It's a different ball game over there.
Were the girlies all over you because you're from the East Coast, or were they like, nah, you're not, we're carrying a surfboard and
you know what? Go ahead. I might have to interject. Go ahead.
What's interesting, culturally speaking, on the whole over there, maybe that was a subculture to the school as well. It was a private Christian school. To the public and to your face, everybody's smiling all the time, just friendly. And so it was kind of creepy because we're not used to that over here on the East. You know, it's like
straight face business.
Why is your smile always there? Like, you can't be that happy all the time. And yet, you didn't always know who your friends were, if that makes sense. On the front end, everything's smiley, smiley, smiley. But here on the East Coast, I feel like, okay, we have a certain reputation. Maybe we're not the friendliest.
But what you get is what you get.
You know who your friends are. There's a sense of loyalty, and it goes deeper than the surface. So just generally speaking, and I have a lot of close friends in California. Big ups to Dusty, my first roommate there.
Bong. Big shout out to Dusty.
The Deuce. He was not the typical Southern Californian, but overall, I'm kind of glad to be back, to be honest. I enjoyed the 4 years there, made some great friends, great experiences. But I said, I don't think I would settle down over there on this side. That was for me.
How about you, my friend?
I started at Seton Hall University. I started as a physics engineering major.
Physics
engineering major, yeah. I remember that was a pretty impressive thing to say to girls. I remember that was like, you say that like...
Yeah, that's the Baja
that was like, their neck goes like this, like, whoa.
This guy can change my oil.
But, I was like staying up late with these physics engineering majors, and I realized that was not my cup of tea. Like, they would be on the computer all night, like doing their, coding and stuff like that. And that wasn't me. Like, I did okay in the classes, but I couldn't fake being something that I wasn't. Like, I couldn't stay up late on the computer, just like, going away playing video games all night. That wasn't me. Like, I like video games, but they were playing like Counter-Strike, like 6, 7, 8 hours straight. This is insane.
How does
to me.
Counter-Strike relate to physics?
Yeah, it was just like a gaming culture. Like they were like glued to that computer.
Yeah, okay.
Glued to the computer.
Yeah, for them to bang that physics out, it used to be the same thing. Wow. Yeah. And when did that light bulb? Because you mentioned physical therapy is your lane right now. So when did that light bulb go off and that shift happened?
Yeah. So like an opportunity happened. I was at Seton Hall University, and because of my mother's employment, she was a professor at the time. She was involved in like a network of schools that you could apply for a scholarship. And I applied for it, not really hoping for much.
What scholarship?
It's called tuition. It's a tuition remission scholarship. So basically, every school that's part of this network of like Catholic schools, Christian Catholic schools, they give a scholarship to one student every year. So it's still like, even though it's, you have to, have a family member that's volunteer, you still have to have
The
like
credentials,
right? So they only give one per year, and I applied to Sean. I went out to Sean's school to visit him, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I'm here freezing my ass off in Seton Hall. I go out to California, and like, we're going to like bonfires, like,
on the beach.
on the beach,
at night. And I'm
in
like,
December,
what am I doing in New Jersey? So I was like, let me just apply to Azusa Pacific University. If I get in, I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
But I didn't think I was gonna get in, and the
You
guy
got
called
in?
me on the phone. He's like, "You're in." So that was it. So
And this son of a gun gets a free ride to go to my school that I'm still paying student loans.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you end up going to the same college.
Yeah, so I went out there my sophomore year. We actually took a road trip in a little convertible Toyota Celica that year with all our stuff.
And with Rob too, it's three of us dudes.
Three
all of our
guys
stuff
in this little tiny car
convertible
with all our stuff for
across the
college,
country.
across the country, which it was a very
Are you
memorable trip.
serious?
Yeah, it was good.
Wow, in a Celica.
In a Celica, yeah.
Let me ask you this. I want to go a little bit granular here on this. That journey in that car, right? Was there one moment that stood out along that journey, or two moments that you were like, wow?
I don't know if we should say this on the air.
Please go in. Please go in.
Have you ever seen that movie Mad Max Fury Road?
Yeah.
So imagine like three guys, like we got the top down. We're driving through like Texas, like in the desert. We all got our like goggles on because we don't want to put the top up because we're having so much fun. But this like the sand and the sun and the bugs and everything, and we're like driving through there like gangbusters, man. But no, I mean we do you remember anything in particular?
For me, it was learning how to drive stick on the way.
Yeah.
You got a novice on the.
Yeah. So we had a stick shift.
So I learned how to drive a manual vehicle on the way to California, and I was thankful for my buddy Tim to let me figure that out on his clutch on his car.
Ooh,
But we made it.
Yeah,
We made it. We made it alive.
Wow, that's a hike. SQR podcast as we marinate on this walk through your life. So the college experience, and I want to get to the point where, because you took a couple abroad trips. What inspired that?
Yeah, I think all of these things leading up to this place so far, the different cultural perspectives and diversity from the community in Passaic, the church at Crossroads, my parents' experiences and stories. I wanted to explore the world and see different ways of life and relate, and if in any way, help. And so there were some missions trips throughout the time in college, and then after college, going into the Peace Corps as well for a couple of years.
I salute you. Wow. Just service wrapped and double wrapped. So where did you embark on for your mission trip?
Different places throughout college. So the Dominican Republic, Mexico, Ghana. Those were the three missions trips that are really standing out to me right now.
Wow. I do remember, and the reason why I'm even bringing this up, because I know you're not a fan of fish. And I remember that one of your trips took you to Micronesia.
That was the Peace Corps.
And Micronesia is this island that if you spin the globe too fast, you're going to miss this place because it's a dot in the middle of...
Smack dab in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, not really close to anything. I've heard that it would be comparable to taking the state of Rhode Island, chopping it into 600 little pieces and spreading them out over the course of the United States of America with a lot of water in between, sort of thing.
So I remembered that on one of your trips, on the Peace Corps trip, when you were going, we went for sushi. I think you were with us for that dinner, no?
For where did we go?
We went to a restaurant called fish. At that point in time, that was the only thing in this world I did not eat.
I remember that. Okay, go ahead.
And I said, really, Squirrel, we're going to fish? And you were like, dude, where are you going? You're going to Micronesia. You better learn how to eat this stuff right now. And I said, all right.
And you were turned off by fish. I remember the story you told me about fish growing up, and you're just disgusted by it.
My whole life, I couldn't eat fish until Squirrel Rosenberg took me to a restaurant in New York City called Fish.
On Bleecker Street.
On Bleecker Street.
Big shout out to my guy.
And it was delicious. I don't know what happened, but I realized I can eat this.
And this prepped you to go forward.
It was amazing because then I was eating the raw stuff. I mean, it was coming out of the boat and into my mouth. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
I'm very impressed with the journeys you've taken and how open you've been to all these experiences, and that's the takeaway from it all. You've constantly been open, and even when I brought you to that restaurant, I said, hey, I know you don't like fish, but try this. You were open to it, and you did, and that experience. So as I get ready to dissect a little bit more, let me ask you this: the Micronesia experience, or let me even say this. Out of all the countries you've visited, is there a specific country that stood out to you?
I mean, they've all stood out in different ways, but definitely the experience in Micronesia on the island of Pohnpei. Pohnpei. I was there for 2 years, so that was a lot more than just a week or two.
Ooh.
And you get to really become a part of the family and the culture there. I was extremely blessed again. I mean, God's hand and his providence through all of these stages of my life, just reflecting on all this and all the relationships. I'm there with a host family who loves God, loves each other. I mean, the environment was incredible. I'm learning a new language and their way of life, and I'm just looking to get involved and again be present, be the flesh and bones. Here I am from the other side of the world. Let's experience this way of life together. And I got to do that for 2 years of being with this family, working for the state sports office, so running a lot of after-school sports programs for kids, a bunch of soccer tournaments. I had a blast. It was a phenomenal 2 years of my life.
Wow. I'm just so fascinated by the fact that you embraced leaving your comfort zone. Everything you've done is just completely outside of the comfort zone, and now your daughters are going to be wow. Tim, as we get ready to hear your side of the story, when you graduated college or through the college experience, did you travel anywhere? What was the things that led you to where you are right now?
So I stayed in California a little bit. I worked in Glendale, California at a hospital, and I realized that I wanted to go into physical therapy.
You loved Cali, didn't you?
No. I mean, I thought it was great for college, but I felt similar to Sean that it wasn't a place that I wanted to settle down in. I didn't have the same values that I thought were important to starting a family, but just settling down long term. Like it wasn't something. It was good for college because when you're in college, you don't get a lot of sleep.
Yeah.
That weather really helps when you're not sleeping well. When you're getting like 4 hours of sleep, you wake up, it's beautiful. The birds are chirping. You get on your longboard, you go down to class. I mean, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. You can't argue with that. But you miss the seasons after a while. Like you don't realize it when you come from the East Coast, but when you go out to the West Coast, they have seasons, but it's not anywhere near the change of what we see over here. And you miss those types of things. You miss like what he was saying, like the kind of like that, I guess you could say harsh but genuine at the same time. Personality of being able to know where you stand with people, So anyways, I did a little bit out there working, and then I decided I wanted to come back to the East Coast. I got into a physical therapy school in Staten Island called the College of Staten Island, which is part of the City University of New York.
Okay.
I went finished physical therapy school there. I graduated. I met my wife in school.
What?
Yeah. And, from there, we started a family.
Okay, so hold that pin. Squirrel Rosenberg Podcast. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and dissect the family men that have now evolved and the fact that we are still here, being able to share these stories, right? We're going to dissect the family dynamic next. And also, I want to get to the impact you're making right now and your plans. The impact you're making right now and your plans. And the fact that God is still so present and, active in all your lives. I want to close with that. So Squirrel Rosenberg Podcast, my boy Sean, what's the name of that show?
Meet the Falkers.
Yeah, Sean Falker and my boy Tim Olsen, SQL Podcast. Take a quick break. Come back after these messages. 1. Squirrel Rosenberg Podcast, coming back from this great powwow, sitting here just, really just reconnecting, learning more about each other and the journey that we've taken in our lives, and finding out, and it's so fascinating for me because I was privileged to be a part of your life, and through that whole journey, your Peace Corps journey to Micronesia, you going to school in Cali, we've always kept in touch, and now that you've graduated, I want to bring full circle on a couple of things. So you'd mentioned the fact that you met your wife in school in Staten Island.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that for a little bit.
Okay.
Your wife, where's she from?
My wife grew up in Colombia.
Bucko. Yeah, she's like a Sophia. 'Cause Sophia, what's her name from Modern Family?
Sofia Vergara.
Yeah. That same personality.
I mean, she's kind of like an airhead. I don't want to, say anything that's going to incriminate me. But there's something about Colombian people that are very vibrant and friendly.
Do you remember the first time you saw
lively.
her? Or what was it at?
Actually, it's funny because...
or did she see you? I mean, what was that moment?
It's funny because when I came from California, I actually came late. I didn't go to the orientation for the class.
Right.
So all the students knew each other, and they already had their seats in the class. And I came, and I guess I got there before her, and I sat in her seat. And so she got to the class, and she saw I was sitting in her seat, and I don't remember this, but she tells me that she says, "You're sitting in my seat." Yeah. And I looked at her with like a dumbfounded where am I supposed to go, And so she ended up just moving to another seat. So I actually stole her seat.
Okay, nice. Good.
And then I ended up
just
marrying.
Stay there.
Yeah, just stay there.
Don't give her the seat.
Well, like I said, it was my first day. Like I was a little dumbfounded, but I was. She was, when we first met, I did think that she was a little bit strange.
Okay.
Not necessarily in a bad way, but just different, unique.
Yeah.
And
this is being recorded, bro.
Yeah. Go in.
No, I've told her.
Go in.
I've told her this already.
He's already signed the disclaimer.
So
go ahead.
So she it was a friendship at first. Like, you know, we got to know each other. I thought she was interesting. I guess she had a crush on me from the beginning. And then, you know, in physical therapy school, you know, like it or not, you're gonna start, you know, touching each other. You know, it's like it's part of the drill. Like, you know,
son, it's in the curriculum.
And you know, there was some chemistry, and eventually, you know, we started going out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Big shout out to that. It was so fascinating because when I, you know, heard that you were getting married and, you know, was able to go to your wedding and, you know, just do like a quick bird's eye view of that whole process, you know, to see somebody that I know from, you know, my Sunday school class that I was able to share that experience with, and we both taught each other through that process. You know, and to see you just grow, it was one of my greatest moments to share in you know, and I love.
It was an honor for me to have you speak at my my wedding.
Oh, thank you. It was just straight from the dome, as they would say on the hip hop world. But I also got to salute your wife, because she definitely, you know, when I met her, it was like, bong, yeah, this is exactly, you know, the woman you need. You know, they're ride or die, they're passionate. You know, it's all the way. And, you know, I salute you and I salute her. So let's just do a quick toast to Blanca, you know, for Blanquita for coming
Love you,
in.
Blanca.
Coming in that, and the evolution into the family that was now created. What is it now like being a dad, bro?
Yeah, I mean, you know, when people ask me, like, they get married and they're like, you know, how is it? Like, you know, is it any different? And I always tell them, like, look, when you get married, it's not that much different.
Then what?
It's when you have your kids.
That's when
things change. That's when things change. You know, like, I mean, you're living together already. You get married. It's not that much of a difference. But when you have your kids,
that's when the bomb.
That's when
the
things start
hydrogen
changing.
bomb that Kim Jong-un is talking about dropping in your life goes off.
So, you know, I mean, I couldn't imagine a better person to have at my side or to be the one to be the mother of my child.
Yeah.
Because she has been amazing through and through. Not to say that we haven't had our challenges, because we have. But, you know, if I could do anything differently, to be honest, I probably wouldn't, because she's there. At the end of the day, I know that she is the one. She's the best that I could have ever.
No, that's beautiful, bro.
Totally redeemed yourself. Well done. Well done.
Yeah, you came back. That was beautiful. No, I appreciate the because people don't understand it's a growing process that you go through when you acclimate from being single to being married and the family. And, you know, at the end of the day, when you look in our society, not everybody's built for this. There's a lot of people that are jumping ship right now. And to hear you say how much you appreciate the value that she brings to the table, you know, and to be able to express that, I salute that. So, Sean, I know you went through, and as we were saying, you know, we're at a table where we all have daughters, you know, so tell me about your experience.
Yeah, coming back from the Peace Corps, from Micronesia.
I'm surprised you didn't come back with a Micronesian wife. What happened with that, bro?
No, yeah, it didn't quite work that way.
What was it close?
Yeah, was it close?
No.
Oh, wow.
All right, moving on.
Came back to New Jersey, started working in New York City, and I actually met my lovely, wonderful wife, Lucia, online.
Lucia. That is a beautiful name.
I thought so.
Does that stand for milk in Spanish?
Light, but you're close. Leche, I think, might be the milk part.
My wife's name is Blanca, which also means white.
And her last name, Moreno, prior to being married, I called her White Brown. That was my nickname for her.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
You remember that?
Yeah. So, Lucia.
But Lucia.
Which is English for...
Bearer of light.
Bearer of light. Okay, go in.
We met online through
eHarmony.
Christian Mingle.
Wow.
And, it was interesting. Both of us were somewhat skeptical of the whole online dating thing, and yet were willing enough to try it out. And it was really neat because she grew up and lived even at that time in Michigan, and here I am, Jersey boy. And so we got to know each other long distance even, communicating online, then eventually on the phone, then taking trips back and forth. And it kind of surprised both of us that was the way it happened.
Yeah, it sounds like your writing game was on point, though.
I do have a knack for the words when when I can think about it, process it, edit, backspace, it helps the filter.
Yeah.
And so eventually got to the place where we were going to meet for the first time. And guess what I did to this poor girl as our first meeting to invite her to come out to none other than this guy's wedding.
That was their first date.
That was our first weekend meeting each other face to face. She was my date
at his wedding.
To my best friend's wedding.
I remember.
All of my family, friends, my whole world and universe is there, and this poor girl's coming from Michigan, and it's just, but she knocked it out of the ballpark.
Oh, yeah, she did. I remember meeting Lucia. I do remember that moment. Can we talk to Lucia?
Lucia, my love.
Yeah. No, that's big. I do remember that moment. So let me ask you this. So she comes out, she feeds everybody. I do remember meeting her. We're at Tim's wedding. By the way, Tim, the way you dance,
you still remember that?
What? Dude, every time I say I want to grow up to be something proficient, I want to be just like you, bro. You were so nice. I'm good with everything else but that. So I want to step my game up. But let's go back to you, Sean. So she, after the whole wedding and he goes away and the party's over, what did she say to you? It's like, are you serious? Or was she like, dude, what did she say to you about meeting your clan, your whole movement?
I mean, that night, and this is building up for months of getting to know each other, just communicating. But to be in each other's presence and just enjoy a nice celebration, for me it was magical, and I was just happy. She still had a smile on her face. I don't remember too much, to be honest, of the specifics of what was said, but it was a really special time. It was just
and her conclusion of the night was, or of the whole experience was,
yeah, I mean, she ended up marrying me, so it went well.
So now you are married, and you have three beautiful girls.
3 beautiful girls, and we got married in Michigan. So I moved from New Jersey to Michigan. That's where we were married. That's where we lived for 5 years. The birth of our first 2 daughters were there in Michigan, and then back to New Jersey, and the birth of the third here.
Nice. Here's what's so fascinating about that. The world scenic view you've taken, and you meet Lucia, stood no chance when you met her, and then the production of your family right now, and where you are and the impact you're about to make and the things you're going to do going forward. I want to dissect that. Right? Tim, Blanca comes into your life. You have 2 beautiful girls right now. Your daughter's names?
Juliet and Caroline.
Juliet. And Caroline. And I've met these girls, and I gotta tell you, Juliet is like a wizard. She knows everything. I love her confidence whenever we were on her. And what's so funny, I had to take a little time to warm up to her, while Caroline just kept looking at me like, I don't know this guy. Let me just keep my eye open on this guy. But you've shown me a photo, and I see where your girls are evolving into these confident young women because of, the marquee they have in their life, which is Blanca. So I wanted to wrap into your career move and what you're doing right now.
Yeah, so I'm a physical therapist, and I work at a subacute center in Kearney, New Jersey called Alaris Health, And basically I work with people who, after they get out of the hospital, they're not able to go home. So, whatever ailment they may have, they may have a stroke, or they may have, like a heart ailment, or just, generalized weakness, or maybe they have like a urinary tract infection, whatever it is. They can't go home yet because they're a danger. When they get home, they have a high risk of falling. So they come to our facility. And what's cool about what I do, and what I didn't see going into it, was that you have these people who have been through their whole lives. They have their whole stories, just like all of us have our own stories. And they come here, and they're basically like babies. They're helpless. And they come to you, and they basically say, give me my life back. And it's my job. They come here the first day. I meet them the first time. And what's really important is that first impression. Like, you come into their room for the first time, you say, hello, my name is Tim, I'm a physical therapist. We're here to do an evaluation. We want to try to get you back, to what you were doing before. So they tell you where they were before. And, over a period of weeks, months, we do things that build their strength, build their balance, build their confidence. And eventually they're able, hopefully, the hope is they're able to return to their prior level of function. So you have people who are at the twilights of their lives, but a lot of them are still, very with it. And it's a very fulfilling thing to be able to have somebody come to you with, basically, they think their life is over, and you're able to give them their life back.
Wow. Very powerful. Squirrel Rosenberg Podcast it's fascinating to hear the passion at which you speak about this, considering that during the walk to this point in our powwow, you weren't initially into the physics and the that whole thing, and the light bulb goes off. You're into physical therapy, and now you're so passionate about it. I'm very inspired by that right there. Let's just, when did you realize that this is your lane?
So, like I said, when I first got out of physical therapy school, my whole idea was that I was going to work in sports. I wanted to do something that was like, kind of like prestigious, but I kind of, circumstances, I fell into a per diem position where I was going to work with these elderly people. And at first I thought this was just going to be a temporary thing. But I realized after a little while that there's a need in that sector for people who have a certain type of knowledge that isn't necessarily people who are, trained for elderly, but people who are trained for younger people who can then move to working with elderly, that can give a little bit something different. And so I benefited from that, and now I work at a place where I'm considered kind of like the specialist.
Ooh, created your lane.
Yeah, so I've been there for 5-6 years now, and whenever there's a problematic patient, they come to me because they know that I have a kind of like a broader knowledge base for orthopedics, neurologic problems, and it's really been fulfilling. And what's been even better, the icing on the cake, is that it's been very conducive to a family lifestyle as well, so that I can have flexible hours, because they're at a facility. I don't have to be there at an exact time. When they're at a facility, you can see them kind of it's a little bit more flexible, where you can bring them to the gym.
No, I wanted to just, before I even get off this topic with you, I just wanted to ask that, now that you've found this lane and you've gotten this passion behind it, I am curious to find out, where do you see yourself in the next 2 years? Or do you see yourself opening up your own spot, or what do you see happening in the next 2 years?
Yeah, I mean, it's not set in stone yet. It's still kind of up in the air, the development of the ideas yet. But I do have a desire to use certain skills maybe that I can't use where I'm at right now. But at the same time, I have to be appreciative of the fact that I'm at a place that offers the flexibility that I can be a family man.
I love that.
So
I love that.
So I have to be appreciative of that because, I'm making a good living. I'm able to, be involved with my girls' life basically for everything. I can bring them to school if I want to. I can pick them up. I can bring them to swimming. I can bring them piano. So all this stuff plays a big role into the decision-making process. If you asked me 5-10 years ago, that wouldn't have been
true
at all.
True.
You would have been like, okay, I want to be working with professional athletes. I want to have my name in bright lights, whatever.
I want to be traveling here, traveling there. Yeah, that's big.
But now that I've had a little bit of experience, I see that it's just as what's the word I'm looking for? It's just as
impactful
or just satisfying.
Rewarding.
It's just as rewarding or satisfying to work in a position where you can do something that's helpful to people, make a decent living, but then also be involved in present. Your family. Because I've seen people who are successful, and I've seen the sacrifices that they've had to do to be successful when it comes to family life. And when you look at it at the end of the day, you have money, but how does that compare to being involved with your family? Like
Squirrel Rosenberg Podcast, a jewel being dropped from my boy. You're not sneaking that by me, bro. That's very profound. That's very profound. You cannot equate memories or experiences with any form of dollar amount. And that's what our society tend to teach us to do right now. So as we get ready to wrap Squirrel Rosenberg Podcast, we want to take a quick break, come back, wrap up with the 2 questions I always like to end my podcast with, which I know my boys are going to hit out the park. SQR Podcast, Squirrel Rosenberg Radio. We'll be back right after these messages with a classic ending on this organic powwow. Sean, Tim, SQR Podcast 1. SQR Podcast, Squirrel Rosenberg Radio, coming back with my guests, my boy Tim Olson, my boy Sean Faulkner, as we're just marinating on, the connections and where they are right now, what's happening. And you've, listened to this podcast and you've heard the journey through, our connection, their connection, middle school, high school, college, world experience, what they're doing right now. And Sean, we were tapping on your lane that you're blazing right now, which is counseling,
mental health counseling.
So it's, you guys are just completely on the mantra of serving others, and I love that. Expound on that real quickly. Mental health counseling.
Yeah, doing therapy, Squirrel. In an office, people coming with all of their lives, concerns, challenges, obstacles, and really, first and foremost, just being a listener to try and see things from their perspective of what life is like for them. And it's working with anxiety, depression, relationships, addictions, all kinds of issues, but being there as a support, coming alongside, hoping to, once I'm able to understand what life looks like from their perspective, provide some insights, bring some things to the surface that might be helpful and clarifying and empowering them to do things that are going to be healthy for their futures moving forward. So
why this lane?
I've always loved listening and getting to know what people's lives are like and showing care for them in that way of being a listening ear, a compassionate support. That's been just a big part of everything throughout all the steps along the way that we've already discussed.
How are you able to not take home or not carry the stories? Because I know you, my friend. I know you don't do this for the money. I know you're not going clocking in. I know you're vested. How do you separate? How do you?
Yeah, it is a challenge. I'll be honest. It can be wearing. It can be draining. And yet the importance of, at the end of the day, knowing whatever my work is, whatever my perspective is, the one who is ultimately in control of it all is right here with us, and he cares, and I can surrender it to him and say, your will be done. Help me to do my role. I'm going to let you do yours. I have my family to be present with and to be there for also. And so it can be challenging, but it is an important skill to be able to draw those lines and have those boundaries from the work life to the personal as well.
Wow. I salute you both. And I salute the fact that not only are you guys in the service driven, but you're also passionate about it, and with a young family, you know, and growing. So as we get ready to wrap, there's a question I am forced to ask my guests. And the question is, you have a magic wand, okay? There's a difference you can make in the world. What would that difference be? Tim?
You know, it's hard to just pick just one thing, but if just off the top of my head,
you have two wands, bro. You got two wishes, bro.
Two wishes.
You got two things you can do in this world that's gonna make a difference.
Does one rhyme with dump? No, I'm just kidding.
No, that's big. No, I like that. I like that. Yeah. Trump does rhyme with dump. Let me say it out there. It's your podcast. We'll say the true out there, but that's big. You know, go ahead.
No, I mean, you know, just like we were talking about our upbringing, I wish that every kid, because, you know, when I see my own kids, I see how innocent they are. I see how, like, you know, what we give them sets them up for life. And I think that if we could, and I don't even know how you would do this, but if we could,
you got a magic wand, it would happen.
Right, you have a magic wand. You could provide a system where you could provide, like, if they're lacking in one area, you would be able to supplement that somehow, where they would be, every kid would be provided with the love, the nurturing, and the education. That would change the world.
That would. Wow, that was very profound. Your second thing that you could make an impact on. You have two.
Second thing, I think, you know, I'm a big fan of just getting into the arts. I think that if we could make the arts more like we treat religion, you know, and be as diligent with, you know, art and music and stuff like that, to really get young people and not like necessarily the garbage that a lot of the music and stuff that we hear, but more like, you know, really get people involved and get them stimulated. I think that would be another great thing for this world, would be to really invest in the arts.
Wow. I got to tell you, I mean, I've always asked my guests these questions, and I mean, Sean, I'm not trying to put any pressure on you, but those are very, very profound impacts. Yeah, I'm sorry, bro. I'm so sorry. You know, but, you know, I got to be honest with you. I salute you for mentioning those points, because, as you said, that would be such a massive domino effect. That generation will be impacted for years. So here you are, my friend.
Beauty will change the world. I mean, with the arts, we're longing for it. what I see on the day-to-day at the root of every mental health challenge and condition is anxiety. And where does anxiety come from? But a fear that I'm not loved, that I'm not cared for, that things aren't in control, that there's chaos and unmanageability. And if I could wave a magic wand, what I would do is illuminate the truth that every single human being has an intrinsic value and worth that goes beyond success, status, their own wounds and trauma, all the messages that they've heard, all the lies we've been inundated with, that they would know they are loved, they are cherished, they are beautiful, and that it will be okay, that the anxiety with the magic wand would be taken away, would disappear.
That's big.
No, that's huge.
That's big.
Yeah, that's huge, because that's an incredible weight. I mean, I can be vulnerable and tell you that, I deal with that on a daily basis, where when I look at what I have to chop down in a day, but I'm also reminded not rely on my resources, rely on his resources. So because I have that background, I'm able to really, wow, dude, that ball is still going out of the park. Your second impact you can make in this world with that wand.
I gotta come up with the second one. The truth of the dignity is definitely number one. Number two, I get rid of all of the abuses against dignity. Pornography, trafficking, abuse, all of the things that degrade and objectify and take people from being a beautiful human being into a thing to be used and thrown away. I get rid of all that shit.
Squirrel Rosenberg Podcast. You're hearing just real change, real impact, and from young men who we have connected through a Sunday school, and we're now evolved. We're still connected. We all have families. They're all making an impact on this world, and you're good men. There's a challenge coming up on Squirrel Rosenberg Podcast, where it's we're reminding women in October to wear their crown. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And our guest, Jessica Martinez, is pioneering this message where she's reminding women that you are queens. Wear your crown. And she said to me, I also want to remind men that you are kings. Act accordingly. And it's an honor to be in the presence of kings right now. I feel so blessed to have this conversation with you, to realize that I was honored to have become your Sunday school teacher, and the impact you've had on my life, to see you guys grow and evolve to what you're doing right now. So as we get ready to close, I want to give a big round of applause. Sean, thank you so much for being here. Tim, thank you so much. This is what we're about. Squirrel Rosenberg Podcast. You're in the presence of kings who are raising queens. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. SQR Podcast 1.
There's money to be made. I'm on the road to the riches. You in another lane. I'm all alone at the bar. Take a